Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OnePittsfield with Mayor Marchetti. Shortly, we'll be joined by City Clerk Michelle Benjamin. But before we get into that conversation, I have a few updates to share with you since our last episode. So the past 2 weeks have been packed with meetings, community events, and special events. So let's start out with some of the events that we attended. I attended the Pittsfield Fire Department Fire Safety Open House. I attended the Berkshire 25 celebration, where 25 individuals in Berkshire County were recognized for their outstanding accomplishments and contributions to the community. One of the 25 recipients was Michael Abasahan, the city's chief diversity officer. So congratulations, Michael, on this recognition. On October 2nd was National Coffee with a Cop Day, and I spent some time with residents chatting about their concerns and wishes for our community with members of the police force, the sheriff's department at Sacred Heart Church. I attended the Gladys Allen Brigham Community Center annual meeting. I attended a ceremony at Morningside Community School celebrating the generous donation of books from the American Federation of Teachers, where we received tons and tons of thank you notes from the kids from pre-K through 5th grade. And lastly, I visited the home of a Pittsfield firefighter who was having a birthday celebration for Donald Seckler, who turned 101, and was able to provide him with a certificate of recognition. Some of the meetings that I attended over the last couple of weeks was a meeting with Secretary Augustus from the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities as he visited Berkshire Community Action Council and had a One Berkshire Business Roundtable. Our focus was basically on economic development and housing. I was recently appointed to the Commonwealth's Energy Transformation Advisory Board to help and advise the state's work to deliver an equitable, affordable, sustainable, and just transition to the energy ecosystem. I met with Deputy Secretary Jody Bridell from the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Secretary Bridell is making visits across the Commonwealth to check in with local Council on Aging directors on ways in which the state and communities can continue the work to serve our senior citizens. I attended the monthly NAACP Berkshire County meeting via Zoom and gave them an update of what the administration has done within the first 9 months and took several questions from them. I did my monthly radio show with Marjo and Slater on Live 95.9 for continuing my monthly conversations and spending time talking about the new trash recycling system, and we also talked about some of the upcoming ballot questions. I hosted Senator Markey in Pittsfield on October 3rd. We've had a sit down at Dottie's Coffee Lounge with some local stakeholders about the vision that we have for our community, focusing on small business, housing, and mental health and substance use. After that, we took a little short tour down North Street and we visited Car Hardware and Dolce Rose Beauty Supply, and we talked to the local business owners. I also had an opportunity of walking the senator past White Terrace and show him the progress we're making with some of our housing. Want to acknowledge a couple of businesses that are either starting up or celebrating a milestone. So first, congratulations to Ready, Set, Play, who is celebrating their 2nd anniversary, and Ready, Set, Learn preschool that just started their 10th school year. Congratulations to them. Also, Wander Berkshires, a cafe, gallery, and photography darkroom will be opening soon. Follow Wander on social media to stay up to date on their opening. If your business or organization is celebrating a milestone or having exciting news, please send an email to Mayor's Office at cityofpittsfield.org, and we'd be happy to share the details and recognize your business for whatever is happening at the time as part of our ongoing program. For the council agenda coming up on tomorrow night, we are reappointing Teresa Apple to the Berkshire Athenaeum Board of Trustees, and we're reappointing Melissa Scarafoni-Metcalf, Cara Graziola, Christine Gregory, and Scott Collin to the Council on Aging Board. Some of the communications from the Mayor's Office to the City Council. First, we're going to start with a presentation to the City Council with a recap of Phase 1 of the total rollout. I will also be focusing on the impact of our communication and what's ahead for Phase 2 with the trash total rollout. This update is important to share and keep the council informed of what we've learned and how we're making improvements going forward. We said from the get-go that there would be bumps in the road, and we have found those bumps, and in each week that we've been rolling out toters, we've been making improvements to what we're doing. A second request from my office is to mend a tax increment financing agreement that we have with Somnath LLC. The Desai family is currently constructing a 77-room hotel, Holiday Inn Express on South Street, and they were previously awarded the TIF. Due to increased costs and the delays during COVID-19, The Desai family is asking for an extension on their financing agreement. The hotel is slated to open in the spring of 2025, and I am hopeful the council will be supportive of this request. Remember, all these businesses that get a TIF pay taxes, and in the case of this hotel, once they're open, there'll be hotel motel tax that the city will be receiving as well. So it's important to help businesses out as we go along to be able to help the city out too. We've also submitted a request to amend Chapter 6 of the City Code to update our ordinance to reflect the recent changes by the state legislature and signed by the governor in regards to foreclosure and tax title processes. So the down payment requirement will now change from having to have a 25% down payment to a 10% down payment. The maximum length of the agreement is increasing to 10 years from 5, and the percentage of interest allowed to be waived increases from 50% to 100% as determined by the municipality. We've submitted a request for a permanent taking of 2 parcels of land on Macona Street in connection with the removal of the demolition of the Bel Air Dam. For nearly 20 years, city staff have been concerned about the deteriorating state of the Bel Air Pond Dam after local owner withdrew from their responsibility for maintenance and upkeep. Working closely with the Mass Office of Dam Safety, the city has been monitoring the structure and providing local support as needed. In 2019, an assessment of options was performed, and it was determined that the best course of action was to seek wholesale removal of the structure. In 2023, funding for removal was secured by the Commonwealth through the American Rescue Plan Act, and design engineering has been occurring since that time, and environmental permits are nearly secured for removal of the structure and approximately 35,000 cubic yards of contaminated materials. For this project to proceed into construction, the 2 parcels that make up the project site must be in local control. The city is seeking to take ownership of these parcels through eminent domain taking process. A public meeting on this project is scheduled for October 23rd at 5:30 p.m. at the Polish Falcon Club at 32 Bel Air Ave. I've also submitted 3 amendment requests for changes to ordinances that relate to trash and recycling services. Now that we have a new system in place, we will need to update our impacted ordinances. Also coming back from Ordinance and Rules are 3 requests that I had sent to the Ordinance and Rules. First was the creation of a new position for a Deputy Commissioner in the Department of Public Services and Utilities. Also with that, there was a look for an upgrade for both the Fire Chief's position and the City Solicitor. The reason that we were going for the Fire Chief's position is, as I'm learning in city government, there is a lack of equity and pay scales amongst our city employees, and you need to begin somewhere, so that is where we've begun. The update in City Solicitor, as folks may know, our City Solicitor is retiring at the end of the year, and so I'm going to take a double-sided approach and try to advertise to see if we can get a full-time City Solicitor that will be in the building, as well as putting in an RFP to see if there's a law firm locally that would be interested in taking on the job. The second was the Youth Commission ordinance that changes the membership and many other items. This came at a request from William Garrity, who sits on the school committee, for the mayor to reactivate the Youth Commission. And finally, there's consideration of accepting some provisions of the HERO Act, which will allow Pittsfield as a municipality to add an annual cost of living adjustment for veterans who are eligible for the real estate exceptions. So that's a little bit of an update of where we've been, where we're going. Now we're going to transition to having a conversation with the city clerk. As many of you know, Election Day is November 5th, and this election has the presidential election and many of the state offices that are there, along with some ballot questions. So Michelle, as we're approaching the November election, I know it made sense to say it's your turn to be the department heads here so that we have some relevant information to be able to share with the folks. So before we get into the election, why don't you tell the voters a little bit about yourself and how you came about being city clerk?
Sure. Good morning. My name's Michelle. I began working in the city in 2010. I was the assistant, before that I was a clerk in the voter's office and the clerk's office. And then the following January in 2011, I became the assistant clerk of elections and registrations. And then in 2017, when the clerk decided to step down, I decided to run for clerk. And I've been the city clerk for the past 7 years now. And
so, many people wonder, because city and town government differ. So our charter allows for the city clerk to be an elected position as the mayor and the members of the city council and school committee. Your position is the same tenure as most on the ballot.
Correct. My position is a 2-year position. You have to run for office, and it's always in an odd year. So next year we will have nomination papers coming out for the offices of city clerk, city council, school committee, and that's it. The mayor's position is a 4-year position, so that won't be happening anytime soon. So in order to run for city clerk, you have to get 150 signatures throughout the whole city. When you're running for a ward position, you have to get signatures just in that ward. So 150 signatures to secure your name on the ballot, and then proceed with the elections. If there's more than 3 people running for clerk, that would prompt a citywide election. If there's only 2 running, then those 2 names would go to the November ballot, the general election.
And the clerk's position, after you served for so many terms, there used to be a ballot question that would say, can you provide tenure to the city clerk? Is that still available to the city clerk, or did that go away?
That went away in 2015 when we redid the charter.
So, I mean, I know what the city clerk does. I know what the city clerk's office does. After 16 years of the council and then serving the last 9+ months as mayor, we know. But for the folks at home, talk, a day in the life of the city clerk or the city clerk's office, right? I mean, there are multiple things that happen in your office, and if somebody doesn't know where to call, it's usually either the city clerk's office or the mayor's office. So talk a little bit about what happens in your office.
Sure. So my office, on the clerk's side, we have 4 staff members. One of those members is also part-time in the voter's office. And there's 2 people in the voter's office. And basically, the city clerk's office is the hub for a significant number of interactions with the public and with all departments within the city. Our mission is to accurately record and archive all of the city's historic records, to provide quality customer service to the public in retrieving records, as well as assisting them navigate their local government. The city clerk's office is the custodian of valuable municipal records, some dating back as far as 1760. Many of the city clerk's duties are established by Mass General Law and the City Code of the City of Pittsfield. We are the keeper of all public records. We administer the oaths of office to all the city councils and all board members. We provide access to public records in compliance with the state public records law. We provide certified copies of all vital records. And by vital records, I'm referring to birth, marriage, and death certificates. They are all available in the city clerk's office if you were born in the city or if you lived in the city at the time of your birth. We have some records from Springfield and some from North Adams. Both of my children were born in North Adams, but I lived here, so their birth record is stored in 2 locations. We maintain all the records of the adopted municipal code that the mayor was referring to with the ordinances. We process all dog licenses. The licensing board is located in my office as well, and the clerk maintains all the records for all the alcoholic licenses throughout the city, and several other licenses, in holders, secondhand dealer licenses. There's many things that go through our office that you can't even imagine. If you have any questions, like the mayor said, the first call is either the clerk's office or the mayor's office. And those are the two phone numbers I think people know best. They even call us to ask us to look up a phone number for them. So we're here to help. We want to help all of the residents. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give our office a call.
And so all that you kind of mentioned was the 8 to 4.
Correct.
Part of your job, right? So 8:30 to 4, I should say. And you and your staff provide all the records and the backup stuff, but you also have one added responsibility as the city clerk, which I know is no longer your favorite part of the job now that you don't have me as council president. But you have another important job that you have to.
A large portion of my position is maintaining all the records for city council. I put the agenda together and run it by the president, who might want to move something around, but all of the items come to my office. The mayor's portion comes to my office with everything from the mayor's office, and then we put everything together. If people have a petition that they want to put in, they can ask their local counselor or an at-large counselor, or they can put it in directly. And actually, one petition on tomorrow's agenda is from a resident of the city of Pittsfield. Then after, we have 2 meetings a month usually, and after that meeting, I call it clean up all of the items that were on the agenda. They have to be archived, they're indexed, they're filed in my office. All of the orders will be signed by myself, the president of the city council, and then they come to the mayor's office to be signed off on. And all of those records are stored and maintained in our vaults in the city clerk's office.
So let's turn our focus to the presidential election or the November 5th election.
Sure.
So if people don't know by now that they're going to show up and vote for president, vice president of the United States and who those candidates are, they really haven't been watching the news or paying attention to any of the media. But sometimes elections really focus on the top of the ticket and forget about all the other races that are there. So let's kind of talk about all the other races that will be on the ballot for November 5th.
So, as you said, president and vice president will be the first candidates on the ballot. Then we have senator and Congress. There are 2 people running for senator and Congress. We have representative in Congress, also 2 people. We have a counselor. There's only 1 person running there. Then senator in general court, we have 2 candidates on the ballot. Representative in general court, we have 1 candidate. Clerk of courts, we have 1 candidate. And register of deeds, we have 1 candidate.
And so let's kind of talk about it. On the presidential side, I know there's more than 2.
There are 7 different teams running, vice president and president.
And so the difference between a preliminary election or a primary and the general election, let's just kind of talk about that briefly.
Sure.
So in municipal elections, the preliminary comes based on number of candidates.
Correct.
In the state and federal elections, the primary comes based on parties or the number of parties that we have. And so in most cases, we know the 2 big names, Democrat and Republican, but at times we have additional parties. So when you're saying we have 7 teams, so we have 7 party affiliations. Slates.
Yeah.
Slates of candidates that belong to 7 different party affiliations.
Correct.
And then in some cases you were saying there were 2, so one might make the assumption, and it's not a good assumption because I think in a number of communities now it may be a Republican or a Democrat versus an independent. So can't necessarily make that, but there would be 2 different party affiliations. And then the candidates are unopposed. We talked about counselor. And so it's interesting and that could be confusing, but the counselor is really the Berkshire, Hampshire, Hamden representative Franklin to the governor's council.
Correct.
And so that's that counselor.
So as you were saying, in the primary, we had 3 party ballots, Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian. And there were no candidates on the Libertarian ballot. But if they got enough votes to qualify to be on the ballot, then they would move forward to the November election. So basically, a primary, you're electing one person from your party to move forward to the November election. There are also unenrolled candidates, formerly was known as independent, and anyone who is an independent, they could have multiples. They will all move forward to the November election. They don't have a party that they're in, so they all move forward. And basically, the remainder of the contests are party ballot candidates.
Besides and so you already mentioned earlier before we went on to taping that the ballots have arrived, and if you've applied for a mail-in ballot, we've mailed them out. But this year's state federal ballot has 5 questions to it. So I'm assuming it's a front and back ballot based on
You're correct.
the number of people. And so it would be important to remind folks to turn the ballot over to look for some of the questions.
And I believe when they're actually at the polls voting, they will remind them that the ballot is double-sided. And you mentioned questions. Everyone should have gotten a little red booklet in the mail. I really suggest that you read it thoroughly, because sometimes you might think a yes is the way to go, but a yes might mean no, and a no might mean yes. So really do your homework on these booklets. The election workers at the polls cannot provide you any guidance on them. And same thing if you're here in the office voting or during early voting. We have to remain neutral with all of the candidates and all of the questions.
And I've tried to read mine. I think each question takes up 3 pages of here's the question, here's what a yes is, here's what a no is. So speaking of important election dates, let's talk about when is the last day for folks to register.
So the last day to register to vote is Saturday, October 26th, and City Hall will be open from 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That is the last day to register to vote, change your address. You can change your party, although it won't matter for this election, but it would be changed moving forward. We will be open from... Do you mind if I go over the early voting?
No, that was the next question. So okay. There we go.
All right. So early voting begins on Saturday, October 19th. City Hall will be open from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m., both on Saturday and Sunday, the 19th and 20th. And then during the week, we will be open our normal hours from 8:30 to 4, and we will have early voting located in the City Council chambers from 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday, October 21st through October 25th. Then again, we will be open on the following weekend. Like I mentioned, the last day to register is Saturday, October 26th from 9 to 5. And we will be open on Sunday, the 27th from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m. And then the following week, October 28th to November 1st, from 8:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. So if you do not want to go to the polls, we're here. You can come vote at City Hall in the council chambers. Many of you, we have over 8,000 that have requested a vote-by-mail ballot, either by absentee ballot or a vote-by-mail ballot. Those were received on Thursday, so we just started processing them last week. We sent out I believe it was over 2,500 ballots on Friday, and we're starting with wards 1 and working our way through. So please be patient. we have teams of volunteers because we couldn't do it without the volunteers. They are in there working. We've got 3 sets of teams in there right now. They're there at 8:30, and we are getting those ballots out. There will be several more going out today, and we hope to get the remainder of them out by Wednesday.
So really quickly, vote by mail deadline to apply is?
Vote by mail deadline is Tuesday, October 29th. It's 7 days before the election.
And if I'm out of town or unable to get here and I need an absentee ballot, that deadline is?
That deadline is noon the day before the election.
Okay. So we're almost running out of time, but maybe really quickly we can highlight the 12 different voting locations
Sure.
that we have within the city. There are 14 precincts, but there are only 12 physical locations.
Correct. Wards 1A and B are located at Reed Middle School. Ward 2A is Morningside Community School. 2B is the Somerset Fire Station. 3A is Providence Court. 3B is Egremont School. Precinct 4A is Herberg Middle School. 4B is Williams School. Wards 5A and B are located at the library. And Ward 6A is the Columbus Arms Housing. 6B is Silvio Conti Community School. 7A is the Pex Road Fire Station. And 7B is Capeless Elementary School.
Thank you for that. So,
one thing, polls are open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m.
Which is different than a municipal election that's
Correct.
8 to 8, so 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So, Michelle, thanks for joining us. I think it's important to get the information out to folks, whether it be a municipal election or a state and federal election. I want to thank you for joining me on the show, but also thank you and your team of close to probably 100 volunteers that come together on a primary day or election day. And when it's a primary day and it's slow, it's a pretty boring day for those. So, folks, come on, let's get out and vote.
Yeah.
I know the general election for presidential will probably be topping a 60+% voter turnout, but again, now with all the options that you have, mail-in, absentee, in person, the day of, there's plenty of opportunities. There's no excuse of why you can't find time to get to the polls.
Can I say one more thing? Those mail-in ballots, you can put them back in the mail, or we have a large black locked ballot box behind City Hall. You can drop them in there, or you can walk them right into our office.
Excellent. Again, thanks for joining me. Folks, we look forward to seeing you on our next episode on October 21st. Until then, be well.